my peeps, and happy Valentine's Day. I want to do a VR to Candy over at Candy Soul and Soil. She recently made a video about navigating heartbreak and using the tarot. I really liked this concept of Valentine's Day. Instead of being about romantic love, it's about self-love. I think that that's very important. I think that's an important message. I also think that heartbreak within romantic relationships is real. I think betrayal is real. I do believe that if you've been hurt in love, you can become kind of cynical, kind of jaded, especially with a holiday, surrounded by romantic love, surrounded by the essence of romantic love, even though what is often commercialized as love isn't real. That's not what love is. Love, to me, love is a verb. You get out of love what you put into it. But I've always believed in the old adage that you can't expect to be loved if you don't love yourself. There has to be self-love on the pedestal, as Candy said. And using the tarot as a tool to navigate heartbreak, to navigate love, your relationship with love, your relationship with synonyms of love, or what you think are synonyms of love, joy, bliss, happiness, things like that. Whether or not those are things that you feel you can achieve. Some people don't believe in those things. They believe that happiness goes off growth, goes off work ethic, what you put into it. It's not something that falls out of the sky. So anyways, but I wanted to go over the concept of what I believe love in a general sense, and then self-love is to me, and then how tarot as a tool can help. Kind of going off of what Candy did in that video, in her video. I will leave it linked below. So first off, what is love? Okay, no. To me, I want to touch on what I guess the 3 R's in love: realness, reliance, and respite. Realness for me, that's being authentic. That's being authentically you. That's being unapologetically you. And a lot of people, including myself, have gotten this confused with being exuberant or, being extroverted almost. I've seen a lot of people that go into the be authentically you having very extroverted tendencies where you need to be out and things like that to be you. Or I think that's the ego part of being authentic. You want to outwardly project that you're being yourself, right? When in reality, it's not who you are. Finding out who you are is crucial to being authentically you, because I don't believe that they're the same thing. I believe that when that finding out who you are is a lifelong thing, and then as you're on that journey of finding out who you are, you're being authentically you within the answers to those questions. So I believe that, Zora Neale Hurston once said, there are years with questions and there's some years with answers. And I just believe that it's about that journey of getting, having questions and getting answers. Pinterest and, actually for me, it's just Pinterest. Not necessarily social media, but there are so many posts, if you just, or just Google, I guess Google is one of them, but just Google questions to ask yourself to get to know yourself. There's 1,000 posts about that. I love looking those up on Pinterest, and I'll just pluck one out of the blue and ask myself these questions. A lot of the times it can just be, what I consider thinking theories, thinking experiments where you don't have to journal about it. You don't have to talk about this with someone else. It can just be something you ponder for the day. Pluck one question out and ponder it for the day. What is your moral compass? They're more specific than that. That's another thing that I think that these questions, when you Google them, have have that actually helps is being somewhere in the middle between vague and vivid is like the antonym to that. But there's a difference between I like them somewhere in the middle between vague, like broad spectrum questions, like what is your moral compass, and then diving into that and being a little bit more specific with like questions like do you believe murder is okay? In what instance is that okay? Just like things like that. And I don't mean like that your morals sit at who you are. I'm just saying that these are some of the questions you'll get hit with. Moral questions, philosophical questions, existential questions, as in like the two bookmark questions. You know, where do we come from? Where do we go? Cotton Eye Joe. I've got music stuck in my head, and that's another thing we're going to talk about in a minute. So those are being authentically you. Okay, it is what it says. And then the second one is self-reliance. When I think about self-love, I think about it in terms of how I would conduct a relationship with someone else, but it's just with myself. Almost like I see myself as an apparition. And then I'm like, okay, how would I engage with you if you were an apparition, like a clone? You know, how would I date you? How would I talk to you? Would I talk, what would I say about, your looks? What would I say about the way in which you conduct business, the way in which you conduct relationships with your other people? Like, if I were to look outside of myself and see a clone of myself interacting with my husband, say, or my kids, would I berate them about what they're doing? Would I condone what they're doing or saying or whatever? So sometimes I like to look outside of the thing, outside of the box, I guess you could say. But with self-reliance, or think about relying on someone. The ones in my life over the course of the whole life of mine that I have relied on someone and what that means. And there's probably some common attributes with the ones in which you rely on. Mostly these are the people that you would trust with your life. Like these people that are in your life that you rely on, you probably, like somewhere in the back of your mind, you're assuming that they'll take a bullet for you. Okay. These types of people that when you call, your like blood pressure immediately goes down. Things like that. People like that. But in terms of self-love, how could we have self-reliance? And that means, how can I rely on myself? You have to be kind to yourself. You have to trust yourself, and that can go on instincts, which is my word of the year, instinct, which has already been really, really profound. Let's see. You have to trust yourself, trust your intuition, trust your instincts. You have to be kind to yourself, and there's ways. Of course, there's ways people have said that you can do that. Like I said, you can like talk to yourself, affirmations, things like that. But then what would make me rely on someone else, right? It's their ability to decision make, right? So in those moments where I really don't want to make a decision, I would inevitably, especially if I'm with other people, rely on someone else. But then I'd have to trust that decision, or trust that they would make a good decision. It doesn't have to be the right decision. I don't think there's anything about right and wrong, like going to a restaurant, picking a restaurant. It's not right and wrong. It's just like knowing everything as a whole, like being able to see the bigger picture. I think that that's a huge component of decision making. And oftentimes when I rely on someone else to make a decision about something in my life that involves me, I have to be able to say, okay, they're going to make a decision that has me in mind. And so good decision-making skills is what I would say is part of self-reliance to me. Trust, empathy, being able to wear someone else's shoes for a little while. That could go into the realm of decisions, but it doesn't have to. You don't have to be in the decision-making process to have empathy for someone else. But having empathy for self is just as heavy. It's just it's a heavy thing for me, because I can trust myself, trust my instincts, which that's a work in progress. That's a constant work in progress for me, is trusting my instincts, because you're always going to have those situations or people that like backlash against that, and you're going to doubt yourself, and that's just is what it is. We're human. But I want to be able to know that I can feel, okay? Empathy to me, like decision making, that's kind of an act, right? You're thinking about it and you're exuding it. But empathy is internal, and it's they're feelings, they're emotions, right? You have to like wade in them, like it's like thick, like molasses, you know? And when you know that you're in a state of heightened emotion, allow those to just to like have to be in them, be in the emotions, like you're swimming, right? I've talked in recent videos about how to drown properly, how to drown when you're drowning, or when you're trying to tread water. There could come a moment, kind of like a Ten of Swords moment, where you're like, I'm done. I'm gonna let go. I'm gonna stop fighting this. And you drown properly. What would that look like? You think that there's a death at the end of that, like you'll suffocate, but not always. Not always. So anyways, that's self-reliance. Find ways in which you can rely on yourself for things in your life. And that goes on any realms, you know, making decisions, moving the furniture around, changing jobs, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, just as you would someone else, find ways to rely on yourself. And then the last one is respite. Respite is like rest, relaxation kind of a thing. I was kind of going in that route, but more along the lines of taking a step back and assess. So it's like an acknowledgement. This is an acknowledgement of where you are at in your life. And this is also in this hesitation of the time, in the respite time, is the time of forgiveness to me. So in the respite stage, you're resting, you're taking a respite, you're resting, you're relaxing, but then you also can assess, acknowledge where you are, acknowledge where you've been, acknowledge where you want to go, and then forgive yourself for what you didn't want, like, to happen. Like what has happened, and you're kind of feeling, you're like, you have the evil wolf is overtaking. Okay, feed the good wolf. feed the good wolf. When the evil wolf is overtaking through shame, guilt, regret, things like that, there has to be moments in the respite stage of self-love where you forgive yourself. And I think that within all of those three, they're my most important aspects of self-love. So again, that's realness, reliance, respite. So, okay, been talking for almost 15 minutes and we haven't even gotten to the decks. Now, I've got some decks here that I'm just going to hold up, okay, that are kind of like my self-love decks, and I'm going to kind of share why when I get there, okay? Now, ways in which I use tarot for self-love. Now, I use more decks, okay, I'm going to keep saying now, but I use more decks than this in my self-love practice, but these are the ones that, I guess, if I were to say, okay, this is my music oracle, or blah, 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 these are the ones that stand out, okay? But typically, I could probably go into my tarot cabinet over there, pluck out a deck, and use it for self-love. I do think that before we get started, as a preface, that is a powerful exercise for you to do. If you have a relationship with self-love, or you want a better relationship with self-love, and you have the tarot as a tool that you use, I would recommend plucking out a deck. Blindfold yourself, just go in blind, pick out some random deck that's in your tarot cabinet or whatever, and go through the deck with a self-love lens. Like, you know, you're going through the Rider-Waite-Smith, right? and you come across the Seven of Swords or the Three of Swords or the Four of Wands, okay? That's a big one for me because there's so much solitude in my life that when I get the Four of Wands, I'm like, what does this mean? I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything for the next week. I'm not having a party. I'm not celebrating anything. And it's like, maybe I could have, in self-love, I could celebrate something about myself today. See how easy that is? You know? I think that when sometimes we can get caught up in the woo-woo of it all, when it's just, self-love can be simple. It doesn't have to be elaborate. So, okay, anyways. Okay, one thing, no, I wanted to pull 2 decks out for this, but I don't have any more room on like my couch and things. But one thing about being authentically you, for me, was getting in touch with your own weirdness. And for me, the Bosch Tarot, now this is the Low Scarabeo, not Travis Henry's deck, but the Bosch Tarot, this Bosch Tarot by Low Scarabeo is so good. Okay, I'm going to have to like get up in here so y'all can see the cards. And I want to be able to like set them down when I'm done. Okay. Let's get the glare off here. I can even see this like with my face in the way. Probably not. Excuse me. Maybe I'll just show like, I love the use of color here, like the way that in which they use whoever did this. I don't have the box, so I don't know who did this. The color pencil work is just exquisite, but I love it. I love it for what it is. I meet this deck where it's at. I happen to love Bosch, but I don't know, the weirdness of this deck makes me appreciate my own weirdness. And I think that that's such a cool thing we can do with decks, is find the weirdest one we can and find ourselves in that weirdness. And acknowledging, you know, I think that the message of life for me, big message of life, is paying attention. And when we can notice weirdness and not look down upon it, find ways in which to have relationships with our own weirdness is crucial. It's crucial. Like, look at that hangman. That's so cute. Like, have we ever felt like this before? Like, who would be this, like, demon pulling the strings down here for you? Anyway. So, get in touch with your own weirdness through tarot. You can get in touch with self-love via archetypes. Mine happen to be like the 3 main, like the Maiden, Mother, and the Crone. And I can use, and for me, I call them archetypes, but for you, that could be deity. Like Candy said, you know, her deity talks to her through how to have more strength and to have things that you believe you're lacking. Your deity kind of pulls that out of you, But anyways, so it could be deity, it could be archetypes. I'm using the Tarot of the Crone because this is my deck, man. And like, she needs to have a space and this self-love. I mean, look at that 3 of Cups, like. And if you like look back like this, it looks like a face. I love that. I love that. Like, when you zoom in, there's multiple people here and we're working together, and then you go back and it's like a big mask. Like the big mask of the universe. I just love this deck for its ability to get me in touch with archetypes. And archetypes are really good to work with in self-love because archetypes can get you in touch with who you really are. I believe that finding out which archetypes you embody the most, which ones you may lack, like, which ones you would want more of or want less of. I think archetypes are very powerful tools as well to work with. And you can use the tarot, because the tarot is full of them, full of archetypes. But you can use archetypes that you normally work with in terms of a spirituality, witchcraft kind of a practice, if you do that. Along the same lines, for me, my witchcraft is also one of those heavy things that I use in self-love. Having a self-love practice goes hand in hand with doing spell work and coming up with devotions and mantras and chant. Well, I don't call them mantras, I call them chants and things to help heal the relationship with the self, to get me back in touch with self when I feel kind of disconnected. So witchcraft goes hand in hand with self-love for me, and to embody the witchcraft aspect of self-love for me is the Barbara Walker Tarot, because she witchy, and I love her. So, love this art. It's one of my favorite cards. Such an aspect in this deck to witchiness, but then also to feminism a little bit. So, but I do love to use this in terms of my witchcraft practice, and then self-love practice. Like, I can use this deck to map out a spell for self-love, and that's what makes it very powerful to me. Okay, so using your spirituality, archetypes, deity, witchcraft practice, whatever kind of practice you have. And then weirdness, because I was using the Bosch, the power of words. Words have power. And that could be spoken word, written word. You could have sacred text that you go to make yourself feel, to reconnect, to ground, to plug you in. I think that words have power. And as a poet and as a reader, I think that words, they play such a huge part in my self-love. So to embody the words aspect, like Candy did, I really liked that affirmation deck that she showed. I think it was one of the first decks that she showed in that video, where it was like, I am. But the pictures were really good too. There was like a rawness to it, like some jagged edges to it, that I feel are really good when it comes to self-love. Like, it's not all, bubblegum pink, But I'm using my oracle, which is the Wild Nature, Wild You. I'm running out of space here. Okay. And they just have one word. No numbers, no nothing. It's just a nature image. And I used keywords to figure out how I want my relationship to be with nature, and how they're not separate. I have nectar. I have grace. I am a secret keeper. I have enchantment within me. I can enchant. I can roar. I can, be angry. I can shun things, have good boundaries. I am capable. I'm rustic. I can, I can provide comfort. Fleeting beauty. This is fleeting beauty. Power of transformation. Prophecy, oracle, right? Anyway, there's all these words that I feel are synonymous with nature and me as a human. And that's powerful to me. So that was my oracle. Okay. And then your relationship, to me, this deck speaks to my relationship to self-love, but also self-compassion. It speaks to, and compassion for me is a little deeper than love. It's deep-seated. It's primordial. And it goes, like, for me, this deck speaks to me of the mitochondrial Eve and the compassion and love therein. And this is the Mother Mary Oracle by Alana Fairchild. It's the original. This glossy lost the thing. The titles here, along with the art. Oh my God, there's so much self-love in this deck. There's just, I can't even explain it. Cannot explain it. I want to be in this, you know, like, it speaks to me of self-love. It speaks to me of self-compassion. It speaks to me of compassion that has been there for millennia. And that's what she's all about. That's what Mother Mary's all about. That's what the Madonna is all about, you know? So much compassion in this oracle. Oh, gosh. I just love, like, look. This egg shape here makes me think of Sophia, the Gnostic Sophia. I have a thing for flaming hearts, too. Like the flaming heart. Fucking love it. Anyway, this speaks to me of compassion. Like Our Lady of Innocence, Our Lady of the Inner Gate, Our Lady of ripening on the vine. Like Our Lady with the moon at her feet. Isn't that a High Priestess card? If I've never seen one before. Our Lady of starting over. How tough of a message does that sound like? But then also hopeful, you know? It's another thing, hope. It's a huge self-love word for me. Because if you don't have hope, you're in a state of torment. And torment to me isn't love. That's not love. That's something else. Okay, so through the power of compassion, what have we gone through? Power of words, compassion, witchcraft, spirituality, whatever practice therein you have, archetypes and deity, and then symbols. Now, there's lots of symbol decks out there. This is just one of those that I find I gravitate towards because it's got a lot of symbols in it, and it has such a structureless way of allowing me to think about certain things in terms of symbols that I keep coming back to. So this happens to be my weirdest tarot deck ever. I have a whole video on this deck and how weird it is. Like, look at that. Release the Kraken. Anyway, so I see a lot of symbols in this, and I think that a symbol deck can be really good in terms of self-love because symbols, like the Marcel, the new Marcel, oh my God, Crone, I think her last name is. Holy shit. Anyway, she's got a new Sacred Symbols deck out. It's not new, but it's new mass market. Anyway, symbol decks, symbolism, I think is really powerful for self-love because certain symbols have been around for, like the archetypes, like compassion, like Mother Mary, whatever. They've been around for a millennia. They've been around since the dawn of time. Like how powerful is a handprint from the caves in France? To grab that, to grasp that. Symbols are very powerful in terms of self-love. You know, make up your own. Make up ones for you. And that way in another millennia, someone will be like, wow, that's Lenin's symbol right there. Or a sigil, you know, like the sigils are very powerful. There's just certain symbols that stand the test of time. And I think that if we unlock certain symbols, it can get us in touch with self-love as well. Okay. And almost done here. Another huge impact for me and for Candy in terms of self-love is through stories. So that's through mythology. And much like symbols, I believe that mythology stands the test of time. You have a personal mythology. You have a personal story that you have been living and choosing to be your own hero is a feat in and of itself. It's a Herculean feat in and of itself. But anyway, so there's symbols and then there's story. And to show story, I'm going to do my Forest of Enchantment tarot because it's just beautiful. It's this is my beautiful tarot, like fairy tale tarot. And I use it when I need the story. And there's such a wonder in this that's really good for self-love, because I feel like when we have a relationship with self-love, we want to be so adult with it. We want to be so mature about our self-love practice. But then there's so many people that forget their childlike wonder, you know? And I think that's huge. I think childlike wonder is huge. I think imagination is huge. And I think when we allow the brain and the imagination to just go, you know, let it go like one of those, like a balloon, you know, let it float away, using stories to get back in touch with those times where we've daydreamed our days away. I often find myself missing those days where I could just lay around and watch the clouds go by. You know? Innocence, right? So through story. Find self-love through story. And along the same lines, childlike wonder, you know? But then childlike wonder as an adult. I think that there's a huge thing there too for me, is childlike wonder doesn't have to be childish. Okay? Imagination and childlike wonder can be experienced through the lens of an adult who doesn't have any more innocence, who doesn't have any more naivete to bring to the world. Okay? There's a point in which you go back to the innocence in a way from your adult brain. I think Picasso did this when he said it took me, you know, to paint like Rembrandt, and then took him all that time to go back to it painting like a child, right? It's the same kind of concept. It's the sacred act of getting back in touch with childlike wonder from the lens of an adult. And this deck, the Iris Oracle, does that for me. It shows me childlike wonder through the lens of an adult. Like a fearful world. I mean, it just looks like something a kid would say, but we know it in a different context because of our worldliness, because of what we've been through as adults. We're not coming at it in a naive way. And I think that there's something to be said about that too. So this deck is very, very powerful in terms of self-love, wonder through the lens of someone who's experienced so much. Isn't this deck brilliant? This deck is brilliant. Okay, and then the last one that I had to share, because like I said, I could go on for hours on this. Self-love in terms of self-love in the form of, I want to say music, but it's bigger than that. But we'll go with music, because music is very, 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 very important to me. And I often have to have those moments where I think it's for like an hour or two. I'll put my headphones in and I'll go outside and I'll just like let the music. Sometimes I'll dance, sometimes I won't. But I will just sit there and do absolutely nothing but listen to music. Not something over and over again, just like a playlist, and just whatever I'm feeling. Oh, I don't like that song, I skip it. 2-hour respite for music and me to just be. And the only oracle I have that's music related is one by Kristen from Over the Moon Academy. I will leave her Instagram account below. She does a whole bunch of stuff. I don't actually know if this oracle is still available, but it was one of those you print it on a sheet and you have to cut it out yourself. She does a lot of those through her Coffee page and through her Printer Studio page. So I will leave her Instagram below. Please go check Kristen out. But anyways, she did this deck. And it's just music. Music titles. I love these. I love them. You know, you just pick a card and listen to the song, you know? You can't hurry, love. No, you'll just have to wait. I love this one. You dropped a bomb on me, baby. You dropped a bomb on me. And I'm feeling good. Nina Simone will get you. I don't know. She's just. Anyway, let's see. What becomes of the broken hearted? I could literally go on all day. I just love this oracle so much. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. Yeah. Okay, anyway. This is a really good deck. But like something that goes on a music or a playlist or something. I know. Oh, I do want to shout out is Mixtress Ray's new oracle. I don't have it yet, but it's basically an oracle mixtape oracle kind of a thing. I will leave a link below to the video that she did on this oracle, and I do believe that it is on Make Playing Cards for Sale. So if you're in the mood for a music oracle or want to make your own, like where you can write it out, you can buy a copy of hers. I think that's blank, and you can write your own music on there and have like a deck of cards just of music. And I just think, so do that. Okay, and that was all the decks I wanted to show. I do want to shout out something else that's kind of going on the day. Is a new hashtag that's come out called it's bought by Danny, Lisa, Marlena, and Dawn Michelle, called Deck Crush. I've got a deck crush. Hate to admit it, but I've got a heart rush. Ain't slowing down. So that's a tag. If you want to go binge some things today, as it's Valentine's Day, people talking about the decks that they have things for, go check out the tag Deck Crush. I'm not going to participate because I did a similar tag. A very similar tag that Candy actually did a couple years ago called Dating the Tarot. So I feel like my answers would be pretty much the same for Deck Crush as Dating the Tarot, so I'm not going to participate. But kind of this is what this was. Deck Crush, Dating the Tarot in a self-love, through a self-love lens. So go check that out. And only because those are like modern things. New people are there, that new people are coming through this tag than were to Candy's, because new people have come to the tarot tube since then. So so yeah, go check them out. All the resources will be below. I hope that this was enjoyable. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy self-love day. Every day. All day. Much love.